If you have watched my 3-part series of making a custom figure skating dress on YouTube Shorts recently, or if you've watched any of my content in the past, you know that I make figure skating dresses. And so I've finally compiled all of the footage from that, and I am sharing the process of making this figure skating dress from start to finish. So like I mentioned, I actually make custom figure skating dresses for myself, but for other skaters as well. And if you've been following my skating journey for a while, you probably have seen me wear a lot of fun dresses, and maybe you've seen me talk about this. But yes, all of my dresses, including this one and this one, which are like my most asked about, where'd you get it? I made these, and I will leave a link to my website as well as my Etsy shop below. I've been fortunate enough to make dresses and costumes for skaters from basic skills level to skaters on Team USA. So if you are interested in getting a custom dress from me, I'll leave all of that information in the description box below. I do want to mention this before we get started. This is not a step-by-step tutorial on how to make a figure skating dress. I am just sharing what I love to do, which is make and create skating costumes. So this is not a step-by-step tutorial. There are really good tutorials out online and here on YouTube. I'll leave some linked in the description box below. So we've gotten that part out of the way. Here is the full process, or at least what I filmed for this, of making this. There were these 3 custom figure skating dresses for myself. Usually before I make a dress for anyone, I will make a couple sketches for them. So I typically offer 2 to 3 sketch options. I will kind of throw up some ones I've done in the past on screen here. When it comes to myself, a lot of my ideas are just in my head. It's gonna kind of seem crazy, but sometimes if they're just in my head, I just start cutting shapes out of fabric and sew it together and hope for the best. And I will say, like, 9 or 8.5 times out of 10 it works out really well. But anyways, this is me just recreating. I did not sketch anything for this dress design, but this is me recreating what I would do, as just kind of sketching out the solid pieces that I would need. And this dress was inspired by a Brad Griffey's dress that I saw. I wanted to make my own version of it, and I also wanted to try out making some new open back style dresses. This is something I don't really get a request for very often, and I don't really like myself. Plot twist, turns out I love it, and now I'm like making more of these for myself. Once I'm done making the sketch, I'm going to take my measurements, and then I basically draw out the pattern pieces I'm going to need to make with like little notes of, oh, this needs to be put on a fold, and this needs to be like 2 inches out, and this is the type of seam allowance. So I just kind of make up like the pattern pieces here on a note paper. Next to it, I will also write down my measurements so I have something to reference when I'm creating the pattern pieces. So before we keep going forward with the video, I ended up making 3 versions of the same dress. This is the first version of the dress in this absolutely stunning teal color. I love this. I am planning on remaking this in the newest updated version of the pattern in this color again because I love it. The reason why I did not like this dress as much is because I ended up making seams in the shoulder area, and I realized I wanted this dress to be seamless. The other thing is that I wanted the bodice to be a little bit longer because where the belt is kind of cuts off my waistline and shortens it in a weird way, so that's something I made note of for the next version of the dress. I also ended up making this in a stretch Swiss netting, which wasn't too bad and it fit really well. It's just this one is a little bit uncomfortable in the arms. Again, that was more of a material issue than anything else. This all led me to make a second version of the dress because I really love this. I just wanted to make it super perfect. So I made the top part seamless, I elongated the bodice a little bit, and I changed up the material. So instead of a stretch Swiss netting, I used a white power mesh. Now you might be saying, why are you using white fabric if this dress is blue? So what I ended up doing is I had a lot of white fabric on hand, and rather than just going through the whole processing order of purchasing and waiting for it to come in the mail, anything like that, I decided that I was going to sew everything with blue thread, and then I was going to dye it blue. It wasn't supposed to be blue, it was actually supposed to be teal, but you know what, I think the RIT dye box lied a little bit to me, so it ended up being a light blue, which I love this color. I love the teal, but I love this color too. This is me explaining what I plan to do in the next version of the dress. Then I get to work cutting out the pattern pieces that I need with the adjustments, and then it's time to start sewing. And like I had mentioned, I'm going to sew it with blue thread because I am dyeing this fabric blue. It's not going to stay white. And when you are dyeing a fabric with synthetic fabric dye, especially if it is a synthetic fabric itself, you're going to need to have the matching thread color of the final result color, not what you were starting with. Once I finished sewing everything together, I put it on just to see how it looked. I was genuinely surprised and very satisfied with all of the adjustments I had made. I did end up trying a more open back style for this, and I didn't really like it. I have grown to like it since then, but at the time it wasn't exactly what I was going for, so I knew moving forward, you can see the look on my face, I knew moving forward in the third version that I needed a happy medium between the first one and this one. You can tell I was over the moon happy that I finally had a seamless pattern. I think seamless is just the way to go with this one. I dyed it, I wore it to the rink, and then I decided I'm going to make a third version. I thought, since I'm not going out with friends until later tonight, and it takes roughly 6 to 8 hours, and I have roughly 6 to 8 hours to make a dress, and I have more than enough fabric in this color, I would take you with me to create the third and hopefully final version of this pattern. So come make a dress with me. Okay, I'll give a brief update. So I took measurements of the length difference as I went up the, I don't know what I'm doing, but in my head all of this makes sense. So I know what I'm supposed to do based off of that. And now I'm measuring the skirt because I changed the length of the back skirt on the new one from the pattern originally. So I'm basically telling myself there's a 1 to 2 inch difference because I use this pattern for both the top and the bottom layer of the skirt, but then I basically will pin and then I slide it down and mark and make that a little bit longer for the bottom part. So then I basically just took my little measuring thingy majiggy. I'm really high tech with making dresses. And I measured from where this seam would be taken in, so then I know that I might cut the fabric to be a hair bit bigger, maybe like 1 inch, because I know that 1 inch kind of gets taken in there from these measurements, and these are the measurements taking from this seam all the way down to where I serged the edge. That's basically what I'm doing for my skirt pieces that I made, and then I will have the correct everything else, like all these other measurements. This I have to remind myself, the pattern I cut, I put 2 fingers on one side and then cut, 2 fingers on the other side and cut, so I have to extend that part a little bit more, but everything else is exactly how I made the pattern. This one has to be shortened, but I don't think it has to be shortened if I make this go out farther, because then it will pull it and it, you know, it all evens out. Once I knew exactly what I had to fix, then I started to measure everything to double check, because you always should double check your measurements, and then I started working on the new patterns, but here I am just adjusting the old pattern so I know what to do for the new one. This is me building out the new back piece, because out of all the pieces, this is the only piece that really needed to be fully reconstructed, so I was just triple checking my measurements to make sure everything was correct. Once that was finished, I went into the pattern and just added the little knots or the indicator points to know when and where to build out certain pieces and what should be joined together and all of that fun information that you can see here. So it's really just a triangle, and then it tells me that there I'm going to cut a triangle or a shape outward to indicate when I'm putting it together that those pieces should line up. And here is the fun part where I'm actually cutting out the fabric, so I'm one step closer to actually putting this dress fully together. I use fully washable non-permanent basting adhesive spray. This just makes sure that everything stays together while I'm sewing it. It's so much easier. And then finally, after all of that work, it is actually time to sew everything together. So here I am sewing all of my pieces together. The dress is finally done. I have added some rhinestones to it since the last clip, but yes, this is my favorite part. I get to wear it to the rink and try it out, which I love doing with all of my dresses. Yeah, so basically that is my whole process of making a dress. At least for myself, it usually starts as, oh, I have this idea for a dress, and then I immediately get working on it and I just kind of create this dress. People who skate with me just automatically assume that if I talk about a dress idea one day, I will show up the next day or a few days later or a week later with said dress idea. It's very not uncommon for me at this point. There are some more close-up video shots of these dresses. The purple dress, I was kind of hustling pretty quickly to make this one because I had this delusional idea that I was going to wear it for an event at the Duluth competition. And then when I was in the hotel, I was like, I didn't finish rhinestoning it and I have other dresses that I love more. I actually ended up wearing the unstoned version of the second dress, the blue dress that was supposed to be teal. I loved it, and then I added rhinestones to it because of course, why not? And it became one of my free skate dress options for the year. And if you know me, I love to show up to a competition with a surprise, and I definitely think there were some people who were like, wait, this is a different dress. And I'm like, yes, I made 2 dresses for this competition because I'm crazy. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed a little look into my crazy world of dress and costume making and all of that, and I will just leave a couple clips of up-close shots of the dresses and stuff with some music. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, definitely give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to stay up to date. I post a lot of skating related videos here on my channel, and if you're interested in getting a custom costume or dress from me this season, I will leave a link for that information down in the description box below. Anyways, I will see you in the next video.